Travel alert, using the hallway, you travel west, taking 5 minutes to arrive. Opening the unlocked door, you find a supply room beyond, filled with dozens of wooden boxes all packed in neat and orderly piles. The same milky white, stony substance that covers everything you've encountered within the aqueduct covers all the boxes as well, so opening a few to see what's inside won't be easy. Curious about the contents of the boxes, several of your heroes first chisel the milky white substance off the boxes before tearing into the crates directly. Inside, you find a variety of weapons, from maces and mauls to simple slings to wooden staffs. Unfortunately, the weapons have also been crystallized, so they're no longer useful. From the look of things, one could supply a small army with all the weaponry stashed here, if it hadn't already been destroyed in the mysterious crystallization process. Let's do a curiosity check on your hero to see if you notice anything else. Needing a 15 or less from Janet, a 11 was rolled. Success, yes, it's pretty obvious, all of the weapons here are intended for use by the cleric class, while fighters could make use of such weaponry. You suspect that the items here were specifically intended for use by clerics, a possible clue. The chamber filled with ruined weapons, there is nothing more here for you to discover, so it's time to move on. A lone door provides escape to the north. The wooden crate here is several feet to a side and bound in heavy leather and rope. Tearing into the box will be challenging, considering the wide. Travel alert, using the hallway, you travel west, taking 5 minutes to arrive. Similar to the supply room you just entered to the east, this modest room contains all sorts of boxes as well, neatly stacked but covered in the same milky white substance you're now quite familiar with. You do note that the boxes appear similar in size, color, and construction to the ones holding all the ruined weapons to the east, as if they all came from the same source. Chiseling through the milky white material before cracking open the wooden crates, you eventually find all manner of armor and shields, from the simplest of leather armor to full plate armor, and from the smallest of wooden shields to several massive, metallic shields. Unfortunately, the armor and shields have all been crystallized and hence are ruined. There is enough armor here to outfit a small army, Swin comments. Too bad it's all been destroyed by this whitish rock stuff. Let's do a curiosity check on your hero to see if you notice anything else here. Needing a 15 or less from Janet, a 15 was rolled. Success, yes, while the weapons and armor are destroyed now, they were in mint condition when originally stored here. Somebody paid quite a lot to buy only the finest. A moment later, one of the wooden crates violently explodes, and a suit of armor somehow rises up out of the wrecked container, as if worn by an invisible warrior. A second suit of armor rises up as well, followed by a third crate explosion and additional suit of armor. As the suits of armor near you, you're able to tell that they are being worn by what appear to be crystalline humanoids. Let's do a party intelligence check to see if you know what is attacking you. Needing a 13 or less from your heroes, a 9 was rolled. Success, I think there's some sort of elemental. Redfern shouts, the monster's closing in. They'll be tough to destroy, we need to literally crush them. And with that, the 3 crystalline entities, each of which are now wearing ruined plate armor, march forth to attack you, the sight rather comical but the situation quite serious. Your party is under attack. Eyeing the entire party are 3 crystal elementals. It's Oriana's turn. What do you want her to do? Oriana readies her short sword +1 and swings at crystal elemental number 1, needing an 18 to hit. Die roll is a 20, which is an automatic hit and does double damage. Oriana hits crystal elemental number 1, doing 6. Janet casts spiritual hammer on crystal elemental number 1, bashing it for 4 points of damage for 5 minutes. It's Redfern's turn. Redfern casts Phantasmal Force on Crystal Elemental number 1, horrifying it for 4 points of damage for 5 minutes, needing a 14 or greater. Crystal Elemental number 1 rolls a 1. Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 1, needing a 18 to hit. Crystal Elemental number 1 attacks Oriana with its fists, needing a 22 to hit. Die roll is a 20, which is an automatic hit. It's Kartha's turn. What do you want? Kartha casts Spiritual Hammer on Crystal Elemental number 1, bashing it for 3 points of damage for 5 minutes. Sainadius casts Spiritual Hammer on Crystal Elemental number 1, bashing it for 1 point of damage for 5 minutes. It's Bart, needing a 40 or less on percentile dice, a 28 is rolled. Success. GM note, a new combat round has begun. Janet casts Cause Light Wounds on Crystal Elemental number 1, wounding it for 9 points of damage, needing a 14 or greater. Crystal Elemental number 1 rolls a 11 and fails versus spells. Redfern directs his Phantasmal Force at Crystal Elemental number 3, horrifying it for. Sainadius directs his Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 3, bashing it for 2. Crystal Elemental number 3 attacks Oriana with its fists, needing a 22 to hit. It's Oriana's turn. What do you want her to do? Oriana readies her short sword +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 3, needing. Janet directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 3, Kartha directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 3, bashing. Redfern casts Magic Missile on Crystal Elemental number 3, striking it with a Magic Missile for 5 points of damage. Arthal readies his short sword +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 3, needing a 14 to hit. Sainadius readies his mace +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 3, needing a 18 to hit. Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental. GM note, a new combat round has begun. Initiative is rolled. With higher values, Oriana readies her short sword +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 3. Kartha directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 3, bash. Sainadius casts Bless on the entire party. Janet casts Bane on all encountered combatants, attempting to curse all enemies, -1 to hit and saving throws. Crystal Elemental. Redfern casts Magic Missile on Crystal Elemental number 3, needing a 40 or less on percentile dice, a 37. Kartha readies her mace +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 3, it's Eswin's turn. What do you want him to do? Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 2, needing a. Janet directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 2. Redfern directs his Phantasmal Force at Crystal Elemental number 2, horrifying it. GM note, a new combat round has begun. Initiative is roll. Sainadius directs his Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 2. Janet readies her mace +2 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 2. Oriana readies her short sword +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 2, needing a 17 to hit. Die roll is a 18, +6 to hit. Redfern readies his golden quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 2, needing a 17 to hit. Arthal readies his short sword +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 2, needing. Sainadius readies his mace +1 and swings at. It's Kartha's turn. What do you want her to do? Kartha readies her mace +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 2, needing a 17 to hit. Janet directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 2, bashing it for 4 points of damage and defeating it. Well done. All combatants have been defeated, ending the battle. Each hero receives 405 experience points. The Crystal Elementals are destroyed, each now just piles of rubble and their plate mail exoskeletons cracked and smashed beyond all usefulness as well. Those elemental creatures are not of this world, Kartha suggests, concerned. Something happened down here that either summoned them or let them loose. Well, probably encounter more. The party warned, let's do a curiosity check on your hero to see if you notice anything further here. Needing a 15 or less from Janet, a 9 was rolled. Success. Taking one last look at one of the piles of rubble left behind by the crystal elementals, it really seems like a few valuable gems have somehow been mixed in with the debris. Hence, be sure to use the take items command to see what loot the monsters have apparently left behind. Having done everything you can within the armor supply room, it's time to use its single door to the north and depart. Janet nods and takes everything from within the immediate area. GM alert, Bless is no longer affecting the party. Travel alert, using the hallway, you travel north, taking 10 minutes to arrive. Fairly small, the chamber here is an obvious workroom, filled with all manner of hammers, chisels, tables, vices and other tools and equipment used to cut, edge and otherwise work with stone. Like all the other rooms you've encountered so far, this one also has the milky white stony substance covering everything as if it were a rampant mold. Searching this workroom will take some time. While everything here within the workroom is either not important or already ruined by the milky white crystalline substance, you do find an interesting black box in the far corner, its small door presently closed and locked. Without the right key, you will have little hope of getting the box open. It's a safe, Ariana observes, feeling around the box for any hidden buttons or switches. I am guessing we're going to need a very special key to open it. The safe looks important, Redfern adds, admiring the dwarven craftsmanship. Apart from the black safe, there is little more to do here within the workroom. Looks like you will need a special key to open the safe. Janet uses the dwarven workroom safe key and loses it from her inventory. Using the key you found in the records room to the north, you carefully unlock the safe and swing the small but surprisingly heavy door open. Inside is a single, glowing item, what appears to be an animal's horn, and you slowly retrieve the presumably magical item from its protective space. And what is this? Eswin wonders with suspicion, never trusting of anything magical. Nobody seems to know what, exactly, you've found. So, what would you like to do? Choose an option, examine the horn and look for clues, further examine the safe's interior, give the horn a steady blow. You give the horn a try, causing it to wail loudly. The resulting sound is almost deafening, several of your party members covering their ears from the noise. A moment later, nearly everything within the chamber begins to tremble, the room shaking as if you were experiencing a sudden earthquake. Then, without warning, all of the milky white crystal covering everything, the floor, walls, ceiling, tools, tables, safe, everything, abruptly shatters, millions of tiny crystalline shards flying in all directions. The dust settles, and you find the room more or less returned to normal, all of the milky white material now gone. Interesting. The curiosity score for Janet remains the same. Makes perfect sense, Redfern says with a grin. The horn can blast through solid stone and even shatter crystal. I imagine the dwarves used the device when they couldn't otherwise break down or tunnel through a hard section of rock. Then maybe we should keep this horn in case we encounter some rock we need to get through, Eswin suggests. Is that wise? Sainairs asks, his thoughts on doing the right thing. This horn belongs to the dwarves, not us. We can return it to Lord Hefralin when we see him again, Kartha adds. The stone workroom now thoroughly searched, there is little more to do here but turn around and use the southern door to exit. Janet casts Cure Light Wounds on Ariana, healing her for 9 hit points. Sainairs casts Cure Light Wounds on Eswin, healing him for 4 hit points. Your party rests and recovers for 8 hours. Wounds are tended, spells are memorized, and your heroes are refreshed and re-energized. Kartha casts Summon Food and Water on the entire party, potentially sustaining them with food and water. Janet receives 3 days of food and water. Your party rests and recovers for 8 hours. Wounds are tended, spells are memorized, and your heroes are refreshed and re-energized. Ariana uses a glowing skull throughout the entire local area, illuminating everything well. Travel alert: using the hallway, you travel west, taking 5 minutes to arrive. As you enter this large chamber, the eastern doors completely blown off and lying in the hallway beyond, it's clear that some sort of massive explosion occurred within. Nothing of consequence remains, everything here has been destroyed, the area now full of ruined debris. Perhaps just as importantly, the same milky white substance you've found everywhere else throughout the aqueduct is not only here as well, but, as far as you can tell, is thickest here, several inches of the stuff caked on every surface. It seems that the white material somehow exploded outward from this location. While not expecting to find anything of value within the chamber, it still takes quite some time to thoroughly search the area, picking through the debris, closely examining the milky white substance on all the surfaces and trying to figure out what happened here. You also note that a long corridor leads away into the darkness to the west. Hence, you could continue west if you wish once the chamber here is explored. Let's do a party curiosity check to see what, if anything, your heroes are able to collectively determine together. Needing a 11 or less from your heroes, a 2 was rolled. Success: while you can't be sure, you suspect that the room was once some sort of laboratory, as there is a lot of glassy shards lying about as well as a wide variety of nearly disintegrated containers, tools, and equipment. The force of the blast that occurred here must have been tremendous. Worse, you discover bits and pieces of humanoid remains, likely dwarven but perhaps human as well, victims who were all but disintegrated within the chamber. While there is no way to be certain, you guess that the room was populated with several dozen such humanoids when the blast occurred, killing all of them instantly and unleashing the milky white substance throughout the aqueduct. I sense incredible magical power here all around us, Redfern comments, feeling about. Whatever exploded here, it was highly magical in nature. And exceedingly powerful, Kartha adds, herself able to sense the lingering energies in the air as well. Redfern may be onto something. Let's do an intelligence check on him to see if he deduces anything further within the blasted chamber. Needing a 16 or less from Redfern, a 8 was rolled. Success: in fact, the young wizard deduces, I would say that the explosion here was pure magic, and it somehow crystallized everything throughout the aqueduct. I am just not sure about the details. I wonder where that leads. Ariana queries, pointing to the large, opened area to the west. Taking a few minutes to explore, the opened area to the west is just as empty as the room here, the milky white substance dominating all the surfaces there as well. The area seems to open into a massive cavern beyond, but you'd have to actually travel further west to better explore it, so you return to the blasted room again to decide your next course of action. Contemplating the seriousness of the disaster that recently took place here, you're quite surprised to look up and suddenly find yourself surrounded by a combination of dwarven guards and human clerics, likely a dozen or so in total. You immediately recognize the clerics as those you just fought back in the reception hall, apparently all healed up, while the dwarves are likely a contingent of the city guards from above. All of them look angry and ready to attack. A moment later, the same cleric leader steps out from behind several of his Sislan brethren, a slight grin on his face as he withdraws his own magical mace. "I didn't introduce myself last time," the cleric scoffs, now with reinforcements. "I am Brother Sen, captain of the Paladins of Sisla. Shall we try this again?" "Who are the Paladins of Sisla?" Senairs demands to know, taking a step forward. "We are the future," Sen replies, just as a bully would ridicule his victims. "It's time the Sislan way took the fight directly to its enemies, and the Paladins of Sisla will lead the way." "But we are not your enemy," Eswin states, confused. "We even have a Sislan with us." "He is no paladin," the pompous cleric ridicules. "And you're right, you aren't enemies. You're more like scapegoats, and all of you are about to die." The human clerics and dwarven fighters ready their weapons, almost eager to destroy you. The situation seems quite desperate. What would you like to say? Choose an option. Diplomacy, let's resolve this peacefully. Honor, what you're doing is wrong. Tolerance, can't we all just get along? Relying on duty and honor, you try to shame the clerics and dwarves into standing down. There is no honor in fighting one another. Unfortunately, your plea falls on deaf ears. These adversaries have definitely come to fight. What are you hiding? Kartha demands to know, perhaps onto something. What, exactly, has happened here that's made us the enemy? All eyes turn to Brother Sen, who grins again, full of pride, almost bloodlust. As Paladins of Sisla, we represent the power and the glory and the might of Sisla herself. For that, we needed the mightiest and most powerful of weapons, armor, and equipment, the greatest of arms and armor the world has ever seen, legions of silver-clad warriors, perfect in every way. And if you want the best, most magical, and powerful arms and armor in all the land, you go to the dwarves here in the Cyan Desert. The dwarves? Arms and armor makers? Let's do an intelligence check on your hero to see if you know anything about that. Needing a 13 or less from Janet, a 9 was rolled. Success, sure, of course. The dwarves here are well known throughout all of Mariga for being one of the best artisans in crafting not just normal arms and armor but magical ones as well. If one were looking to equip a small army, asking the dwarves here to supply the arms and armor would be ideal. So, the Sislan way conscripted the dwarves of the Cyan Desert to outfit their new army, these Paladins of Sisla as you call it, Eswin summarizes, trying to make the connection himself. What's that got to do with us? Because something went terribly wrong as the magical arms and armor were being made, didn't it? Redfern intervenes, beginning to understand. The explosion that occurred here, the magic that's still in the air, the statues standing about that are actually crystallized corpses. Something horrific happened down here, and the Sislan way is responsible. Brother Sen chuckles a bit, rather surprised that the party has guessed what happened but not at all concerned. I suppose Supreme Healer Priest Dilt may have gone a little too far in his demands for perfect arms and armor. And yes, the magic got a little out of control, resulting in what you see down here. It's even true that the magical blast crystallized the tears of blue itself and stopped the aqueduct from flowing. But it's all been worth it, for, as you can see, the Paladins of Sisla have their arms and armor, and after we restore the aqueduct for the dwarves here, we will march upon all of Mariga, and drive abject fear into the very souls of our enemies. But first, the dwarves here need a scapegoat to blame their troubles on. Once all of you are dead, it will be easy to announce that the crystallization of the tears of blue was totally your fault, and that the Sislan way was able to defeat you, repair the aqueduct and restore everything back to normal. So, Lord Hefralin never had any intention of letting us help him find the real cause of the missing water, Eswin condemns, sneering at Brother Sen. He let us down here only to be used as scapegoats by the likes of you. And now it's time to play your part, Sen hisses, commanding all his troops to attack. Time to die. As the dozen or so clerics and dwarves march forward, your party instinctively withdraws into a tight circle, back to back and weapons at the ready. Despite how much you've grown as a party since your early days back in Tobin, You're quite outmatched and the situation looks grim. What do you do? Choose an option: blow the horn of blasting, stand your ground and fight to the death. Reaching into your pack, you grab the magical horn and blow into it with everything you have. The subsequent bellowing from the horn almost ruptures your eardrums and immediately stops everyone in their tracks. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake, as do the walls and even the ceiling, rumbling as if an earthquake were striking. The clerics and dwarves look around, unsure of what is happening. Then, all the milky white substrate covering the floor, walls, and ceiling shatters, millions of tiny shards flying in all directions. As the clerics and dwarves had totally surrounded you, just by chance they also protect you from most of the debris, the sharp bits whizzing into them instead and causing significant wounds. The rumbling finally ceases and the debris dissipates. Looking about, the clerics and dwarves still surround you, but they have been wounded, even Brother Sen. Your party is under attack. About to attack your party are Brother Sen, 7 dwarven thugs and 5 paladin of Sislas. It's Janet's turn. What do you want her to do? Janet casts Spiritual Hammer on Brother Sen, bashing him for 2 points of damage for 5 minutes. It's Redfern's turn. What do you want him to do? Redfern casts Web on roughly half of all encountered combatants, attempting to immobilize them in sticky goo. Brother Sen is held for 5 minutes, needing a 11 or greater. Brother Sen rolls a 6 and fails. It's Ariana's turn. What do you want her to do? Ariana readies her short sword +1 and swings at Paladin of Sisla number 4, needing a 40 or less on percentile dice. A 15 is rolled. Success. Barthol blends into the shadows. Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at Paladin of Sisla number 3, needing a 18 to hit. Die roll is a 15. It's Kartha's turn. What do you... Kartha casts Spiritual Hammer on Paladin of Sisla number 4, bashing him for 4 points of damage for 5 minutes. Paladin of Sainairs casts Spiritual Hammer on Dwarven Thug number 2, bashing him for 4 points of damage for 5 minutes. Dwarven Thug number 6 attacks Eswin with his short sword, needing a 20 to hit. Die roll is a 9. GM note: a new combat round has... Janet casts Cause Light Wounds on Dwarven Thug number 4, wounding him for 6 points of damage. Redfern casts Magic Missile on Dwarven Thug number 2, striking him with a magic missile for 8 points of damage. Barthol readies his short sword +1 and swings at Dwarven Thug number 5. It's Sainairs' Spiritual Hammer's turn. What do you want it to do? Sainairs directs his Spiritual Hammer at Dwarven Thug number 4, bashing. Ariana readies her short sword +1 and swings at Dwarven Thug number 5. Kartha readies her mace +1 and swings at Dwarven Thug number 6. Janet directs her Spiritual Hammer at Dwarven Thug number 6. Kartha directs her Spiritual Hammer at Dwarven Thug number 6, bashing him for 3 points of damage and leaving him. Sainairs readies his mace +1 and swings at Dwarven Thug number 6. GM note: a new combat round has begun. Initiative is rolled. Ariana readies her short sword +1 and swings at Dwarven Thug number 5, needing a 15 to hit. Barthol readies his short sword +1 and swings at Dwarven Thug number 5, needing a 15 to hit. Die roll is a 19, plus 5 to hit. Barthol hits Dwarven Thug number 5, doing 7 points of damage and defeating him. Well done. All combatants have been defeated, ending the battle. Each hero receives 272 experience points. Again unwilling to fight to the death, Brother Sen orders his paladins and dwarves to flee, the lot scampering away back to the east. While you don't pursue them, you intuitively sense that you haven't seen the last of Brother Sen. Did you know about these paladins of Sisla? Kartha demands of Sainairs, the mutant surprisingly angry. Are you also part of this plot to wreak havoc throughout Mariga in the name of your almighty Sisla? No. Sainairs replies, shocked by the accusation. I had no idea, I can scarcely even believe a supreme healer priest would do such a thing. There must be a more logical explanation to what we've heard down here. The logical explanation is that the Sislan way is becoming militant. Kartha replies, still quite angry. We may have stopped a few here in the aqueduct, but it sounds like there is a whole army of them preparing to swarm Mariga with their ego and self-righteous arrogance. Janet, what do you think of the sudden appearance of these paladins? Choose an option, defend the Sislan way despite the attack. The world does not need more holy warriors, try not to think about it too much. The spirit score for Janet remains the same, in a volatile world where there is already enough violence and death, adding yet another group of fanatics, those looking to kill and maim all in the name of their cause, does not seem like the way forward, and you're just as disappointed by the development of this Paladins of Sisla organization as Kartha is. Now what? Ariana asks, attempting to move the conversation along. We can't stay here for long, Eswin responds. The conspiracy between Hefralin, Dilt, these Paladins of Sisla and the like, there is nobody here in blue who would even believe us at this point. There is the inner circle wizard Voxar, Redfern suggests. I believe she can be trusted, and she'd want to know what we've learned down here. Although one to always distrust a wizard, Eswin nods his head in surprising agreement, recognizing that Redfern is likely correct. Before we leave the aqueduct, we still need to figure out how to restore the water down here, Kartha commands. We've come all this way, we can't give up now. That crevice that runs under the bridge near the stairway that led us down here, Sainairs continues, trying to help. That was the tears of blue before it was crystallized by the explosion in this chamber. By thunder, we just saw what happened when Janet blew that magical horn. Redfern states, a grin on his face. Perhaps the horn can break all the crystallization of the underground river. Now there's an idea. Wherever you can find access to the underground river, try giving the horn a blow. GM note, your quest log has been updated. Click the quests button for all the details, all is quiet and it's time to move on. Exits lead away to the east and west. Travel alert, using the hallway, you travel west, taking 15 minutes to arrive, descending down some stone steps from the blasted chamber to the east, you soon find yourselves within a massive cavern. Here, what appears to be a riverbed is cut into the floor of the cavern, running southwest to northeast. However, there is no water here, just the same milky white substrate material clinging to everything and preventing the water from flowing. Approaching the edge of the dry riverbank, you find some half a dozen statues standing there, all of them in some sort of mundane pose. You've seen this before, of course, and you know that these are likely dwarves who were crystallized as well. Searching the area, you don't find anything that's particularly interesting or useful. However, if you look very closely at the crystallized river beyond, you can occasionally see a few air bubbles rising up, indicating that the river isn't completely solidified. If only you had something powerful that could destroy the crystallized surface and release the trapped water here. Knowing what to do, you retrieve the magical horn of blasting from your inventory and give it a solid blow. The resulting wail echoes off the crystallized walls of the cavern, quickly causing the ground to shake. The rumbling intensifies until everything is quaking, the noise so loud that you cover your ears with your hands. Then, to your amazement, the milky white substrate covering everything cracks, splinters, and shatters, exploding in all directions. The pulverized stone blankets the entire area, as if a dense fog had just settled in. The shaking finally subsides and you're shocked to see that the water here is free-flowing again. You've destroyed the crystallization over and throughout this section of the river. The river is free again. Ariana shouts, the accomplishment quite significant. At least this section of the river is free, Eswin comments, pointing upriver toward the northeast. The riverbed beneath the bridge that led us here, we need to use the horn there as well. Indeed, your work is not yet done. However, breaking the river free of the crystallized substrate here was quite the challenging first step, so let's reward the party for all its work to this point. Each hero earns 714 experience points. The underground river here, the Tears of Blue, is running free again. Time to move on to another area within the aqueduct. GM note, your source of light has just gone out, your party rests and recovers for 8 hours. Wounds are tended. Ariana uses a glowing skull throughout the entire local area, illuminating everything well. Travel alert, returning to the underground bridge, you take a half hour to arrive. Returning to the bridge here and the stairway leading back to the surface, you can see that the ravine below is now filled with water to the southwest. Use of the horn of blasting has partially restored the underground river to this point. However, the river to the northeast is still blocked here by more of the crystalline stone. Recognizing what to do, you give the horn another blow, its eerie sound reverberating throughout the bridged area here. The ground shudders and the bridge sways, but then the solidified blockage below cracks and splinters, allowing the river to gush forward and flood the ravine to the northeast as well. The Tears of Blue. Ariana shouts with enthusiasm. It's almost been restored. Yes, the river has almost been restored. The bad news is that, far ahead several hundred yards to the northeast, you can see that the flowing water is again being blocked by another large crystal formation, currently out of reach by the horn of blasting. Hence, you will have to find some way to travel along the river, reach that point and blast the ravine again. The good news is that the blasting here has revealed a previously concealed path down to the ravine itself, a relatively safe access point from which you can travel alongside the river below to the point you need to reach to the northeast. Hence, feel free to travel northeast whenever you're ready. The river below restored here under the bridge, you will still need to travel northeast and free up a final section of river that's been dammed up by the crystalline stone. Of course, you're free to go north or south here within the aqueduct as well. Travel alert, using the path, you travel northeast, taking 20 minutes to arrive. Following the underground riverbank northeast several hundred yards, you eventually reach a point in which the river is again blocked by a massive accumulation of crystalline stone, preventing it from continuing further northeast. Hence, even if you blew the horn of blasting here to free up the river, you don't see how that would help. There does not seem to be anywhere for the water to go. Now what? Eswin asks, recognizing the end of the ravine here as well. Should we look around? Ariana suggests. At first, searching the area seems pointless. You're in an underground cave system and there is nowhere left to go. Looking around anyway, Ariana then notices a dark, empty place in the ceiling further to the northeast, calling for your heroes to investigate. Shining some light up into the hole, you recognize that it's massive, some 50 feet in diameter and going up at least 50 feet, the extent of your light source. Intrigued, your party steps toward the large hole in the ceiling to inspect it further. As Ariana climbs her way underneath the large hole, however, she suddenly starts feeling light as a feather. Ordering the party to stay back, she then grabs a nearby stone and tosses it directly underneath the hole, rather than falling back to the cavern floor. the pebble instead gently floats upward and quickly out of sight into the darkness of the hole beyond. Let's do a party intelligence check to see if you can discern what's going on. Needing a 13 or less from your heroes, a 20 was rolled. Failure, I wonder. Redfern mumbles, unsure. I am guessing we're standing directly below the city's power tower above. Maybe this is where the tears of blue originate from. Preoccupied with the hole in the cavern roof and the strange levitation effect here, your party fails to notice several crystallized columns slowly moving in your direction, stalagmite-like formations that are moving with a mind of their own. Almost without warning, the crystal elementals are upon you, and they're not happy of your presence here. Your party is under attack. Coming at all of you are 4 crystal elementals. Crystal elemental number 4 attacks Ariana with its fists, needing a 22 to hit. Die roll is a 15, plus 8 to hit. Crystal, it's Barthol's turn. What do you want him to do? Needing a 40 or less on percentile dice, a 4 is rolled. Success. Barthol blends into the shadows, hiding from all combatants and receiving a plus 4 to hit and potentially doing triple damage upon his next attack. It's Nyers' turn. What do you... Nyers casts Spiritual Hammer on Crystal Elemental number 4, bashing it for 4 points of damage for 5 minutes. It's Redfern's turn. What do you want him to do? Redfern casts Phantasmal Force on Crystal Elemental number 4, horrifying it for 3 points of damage for 5 minutes, needing a 14 or greater. Crystal Element, Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 4. Kartha casts Spiritual Hammer on Crystal Elemental number 4, bashing it for 1. Janet casts Spiritual Hammer on Crystal Elemental number 4, bashing it for... Ariana readies her golden quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 4, needing a 18 to hit. Crystal Elemental number 3 attacks Eswin with its fists, needing a 20 to hit. Die roll is a 18, plus 8 to hit. Crystal Elemental. GM note, a new combat round has begun. Initiative is rolled, with higher value. Ariana readies her golden quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 4, needing a 18 to hit. Die roll is a 18, plus 6 to hit. Ariana hits Crystal Elemental. Barthol readies his short sword +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 4, needing a 14 to hit, plus 4 due to hiding in shadows. Die roll is a 20, which is an automatic hit. Nyers casts Bless on the entire party, potentially blessing them. Janet casts Bane on all encountered combatants, attempting to curse all enemies, -1 to hit and saving throws. Crystal Elemental number 1 is Bane. Nyers directs his Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 2, bash. Redfern directs his Phantasmal Force at Crystal Elemental number 2, horrifying it. Kartha directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 2, bashing it for 1 point of damage and leaving it with 19 hit points. Eswin uses a Boots of Speed on himself, allowing himself to act twice each round for 5 minutes. It's Redfern's turn. Redfern casts Magic Missile on Crystal Elemental number 2, strike. Cartha readies her mace +1 and swings at crystal elemental number 2, needing. Janet directs her spiritual hammer at crystal elemental number 2. Crystal elemental number 1 attacks Eswin with its fists, needing a crystal elemental number 3 attacks Eswin with its fists, needing a 21 to hit. GM note: a new combat round has begun. Initiative is rolled. With higher values act, Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at crystal element, needing a 40 or less on percentile dice. A 81 is rolled. Ariana readies her golden quarterstaff +1 and swings at crystal elemental number 2, needing. Janet casts cause light wounds on crystal elemental number 2, wounding it for 11 points of damage, needing a 14 or greater. Sainadius directs his spiritual hammer at crystal elemental number 3, Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at crystal elemental number 3, needing a 16 to hit. Die roll is a 5. Cartha casts Cure Light Wounds on Eswin, healing him for 11 hit points. It's Redfern's turn. Redfern casts Magic Missile on Crystal Elemental number 3, striking it with a magic missile for 8 points of damage. Cartha directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 3, bashing it for 3 points of damage and leaving it with 22 hit points. Sainadius readies his mace +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 3, needing a. Janet directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 3. It's Redfern's Phantasmal Forces turn. What? GM note: a new combat round has begun. Initiative is rolled. With high, Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 3, needing a. Ariana readies her golden quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 3, needing a 16 to hit. It's Redfern's turn. What do you want him to do? Redfern uses a broom of flying on himself, allowing himself to fly for an hour. It's Janet's turn. Janet casts Cure Light Wounds on Eswin, healing him for 11 hit points. Sainadius readies his mace +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 1, needing a 16 to hit. Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 1, needing a 16 to hit. Cartha readies her mace +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 1. Sainadius directs his Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 1. Janet directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal needing a 40 or less on percentile dice. A 88 is rolled. Cartha directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 1. GM note: a new combat round has begun. In it, Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 1. Janet directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 1. It's Janet's turn. What do you want her to do? Janet readies her mace +2 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 1. Ariana readies her golden quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 1, needing a. Sainadius readies his mace +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 1. Eswin readies his quarterstaff +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 1. Cartha readies her mace +1 and swings at Crystal Elemental number 1. Barthol readies his short sword +1 and swings at Crystal Element. Cartha directs her Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 1, bashing it for 3 points. Sainadius directs his Spiritual Hammer at Crystal Elemental number 1, bashing it for 3 points of damage and defeating it. Well done. All combatants have been defeated, ending the battle. Each hero receives 540 experience points. The last of the elementals are destroyed, and you breathe a sigh of relief, the cavern cold and quiet again. With the crystal elementals out of the way and the levitation field still in place, there is one thing left to do: blow the horn of blasting. That should release the torrent of water to the southwest and allow it to flood the levitation field, where it should then rise up through the power tower and out the eyes of the statue far atop the tower, restoring water to the city. Grabbing the horn from your inventory, let's first do a wisdom check on your hero and see what happens. Needing a 14 or less from Janet, a 1 was rolled. Success. About to blow the horn, it occurs to you that, from where you're standing right now, unleashing the full fury of the river could easily drown your entire party in the process. Hence, you wisely retreat from your current position and backtrack a bit, finding some high ground from where you can safely blow the horn. The artifact at the ready, you blow into the horn of blasting with everything you have. As experienced several times before, the magic of the horn reverberates throughout the cavern here, causing the floor, walls, and ceiling to shake, and for a moment you worry that the entire cavern may come crashing down on all of you. Then, the crystalline rock holding the river back begins to split and collapse, its sound not unlike caving ice that hurts your ears. Moments later, the river lurches forward, crashing past the crumbling whitish stone and immediately entering the levitation field beneath the giant hole in the ceiling, where the water is then magically pulled up like a grand waterspout and into the inky darkness above. The underground river reacts wildly to its sudden freedom, crashing at your feet as it's finally allowed to pass northeast again, up, and through the power tower above. While you have no way of actually witnessing it, you imagine that in a few short moments, the tears of blue will begin pouring through the eyes of the statue atop the power tower again, signaling the return of water to the parched city and ending the deadly drought here within blue. Somehow, some way, you've done it, and thousands of lives will now be spared thanks to your daring and heroism. GM note, your quest log has been updated. Click the quests button for all the details. Well done, Janet. You've completed this quest. Let's dole out some well-deserved bonus experience points. Each hero earns 1429 experience points. Redfern has gained a new energy level and receives 3 new hit points and 1 new spell. Click the spells button to assign the new spell. And that's that. Redfern states with a grin. I imagine things are looking rather spectacular up there right about now. We should head back, Eswin suggests, nothing more for the party to do here. And what do we do about Lord Hefralin? Kartha asks, wanting to hold the Lord of Blue accountable. The dwarves here deserve to know his part in what happened. Agreed. Sainadir's commands, nodding his head. Supreme Healer Priest Dild needs to face the truth as well, and we need to tell everyone we can about these wicked paladins of Sisla. Your party in complete agreement, you prepare for the journey back to the bridge. Standing just a dozen or 2 feet above the raging river below, your only recourse now is to head southwest and back to the bridge in the center of the aqueduct, so you can quickly return to the surface and expose the city's leadership here in blue for everything evil that they've done. GM alert, Bless is no longer affecting the party. Travel alert, using the path, you travel southwest, taking 20 minutes to arrive, returning to the bridge here, your work appears to be done, the Tears of Blue has been fully restored. While you can still visit any place you wish here within the aqueduct, it's time to return to the surface, ensure that all is well and perhaps even confront both Lord Hefralin and Supreme Healer Priest Dild for their roles in causing the catastrophe down here in the first place. The underground river fully restored, you can ascend the stairway here and return to the surface of blue if you wish. Exits away from the bridge also lead to the north and south. Travel alert, using the stairway, you travel up, taking 15 minutes to arrive. Ascending the stairway, you reflect on what you've discovered, how Lord Hefralin, short on funds after mismanaging the family fortune over the years, agreed to outfit a small army for the Sislan Way, how Dild overextended his own magical power that caused a blast that killed everyone in the aqueduct, and how it all led to encasing the aquifer in crystal, blocking its flow. Now that you know the truth, Hefralin and Dild must be exposed for the villains they are. As you near the door leading out, let's do a curiosity check to see if you notice anything. Needing a 15 or less from Janet, a 13 was rolled. Success, approaching the door, you notice lots of footprints in the light sand on the floor, way too many to be left by just your party. Hence, it's clear that dozens of dwarves have passed through the doorway recently. Stepping out of the door and back into the city, you travel perhaps 10 feet beyond and turn for the power tower in the distance to the northeast, the underground water gushing through the eyes of the tower at the top once again. It's a grand sight, and the entire party smiles and looks to one another in approval and achievement. You have done a great thing and are proud of the accomplishment. Suddenly, A small army of dwarven guards race to your location from out of nowhere and surround the party, leaving you nowhere to run. As if that weren't enough, dozens of human cleric soldiers, wearing perfect, magically enhanced armor and shields bearing the new paladins of Sisla Chevron, surround your party as well, hopelessly outnumbering all of you. Eswin reaches for his own weapon, but you tell the party to stand down, as you'd be massacred if it comes to blows at this point. Tense moments pass. Brother Sen then steps out of the crowd of dwarves and humans, again completely healed and his armor once again perfect, as if you'd never beat him down before. Expecting some sort of heckle or speech from the insidious cleric, he merely chuckles at the sight of you before stepping aside. Both Lord Hefralin and Supreme Healer Priest Dild then appear, the villainous pair stepping to within 10 feet or so of you, each quite aware of what you've done in the aqueduct and recognizing that you can now easily expose them as well. As Hefralin and Dild turn to you, what would you like to say? Choose an option. Charisma, come to reward us. Intelligence, we don't want a fight. Wisdom, are you here to negotiate? Attempting to take a more light-hearted approach, you ask the blue officials if they've come to reward your party for restoring the tears of blue and saving everyone. Ariana and Redfern smile a bit, but nobody else seems interested in humor at the moment. I told you when we first met that your assistance wasn't needed, Lord Hefralin begins, addressing you officially. We let you see for yourselves that all is well here in blue, now it's time for you to leave. Yes, we've restored the tears of blue, Cartha responds, speaking on your behalf. We've likely saved everyone here within the city. You've done no such thing, Supreme Healer Priest Dild responds, surprising you. While it's true a rebel faction within the city temporarily halted flow of our aqueduct, they have been soundly defeated and our brave and resourceful soldiers here restored the tears. You have done nothing. What? You faced crystallized monsters, defeated the paladins of Sisla not once but twice and not only found the horn of blasting but used it to clear the aquifer and restore the water. Shocked by the alternative explanation, let's do a reason check on your hero. Needing a 12 or less from Janet, a 20 was rolled. Failure, stunned by the false explanation, you spend the next few minutes detailing what really happened, suggesting that Dild has been grossly misinformed, and that it's your party that deserves all the praise. With the tears flowing again, the rebels put down and the city safe and secure, you're no longer needed or even welcome within our walls, Lord Hefralin continues, his lie quite convincing. It's time for all of you to remove yourselves from blue, and do so now. He's got this all wrong, Ariana whispers, as shocked as you. What's going on? What is going on? Redfern boldly calls out. Where is Representative Voxart? Surely she'll listen to reason. That lying, self-serving, treasonous witch has been forever banished from the Cyan Desert, Supreme Healer Priest Dild returns, his hatred for the truistic on display again. If she or any of her villainous circle members ever return to blue, our paladins of Sisla will execute them on the spot. The circle won't stand for that, Redfern responds, astonished. You're inviting war with the circle. Dild slowly grins, apparently war with the circle is exactly what he wants. Redfern's anger growing within, let's do a spirit check on him to see what more he says. Needing a 14 or less from Redfern, a 4 was rolled. Success, while Redfern definitely has more to say to Hefralin and Dild, he looks to you and bites his lip, recognizing that an escalation of words right now is not in the best interests of the party. You then nod to him, appreciating his silence. For the last time, Lord Hefralin huffs. Blue is safe and secure. You are no longer welcome. Leave now, or we will make you leave. Eyeing Hefralin, Dild, Sen, and all the guards here and recognizing their angry, militant, self-serving mindset, the smart play here is to agree to leave the city, despite all the lies. Your move, choose an option, agree to leave at once, ask to stay just one more day, refuse to leave, inviting chaos. Thinking that if you could be given just one more day you can still expose Hefralin and Dild and set everything right, you ask for that day. Hefralin's response is to draw his weapon, however, causing all the guards to do the same. No, you will have to leave blue now. Brother Sen. Lord Hefralin commands, the Dwarven King most agitated with your party now. Have your paladins escort these heroes to the front gate. If they offer any resistance, cut them down and hang their corpses out in the desert for all to see. Sen grins again, then orders a platoon of paladins to lead you away. Your time here in blue is coming to an abrupt end. Lord Hefralin then takes a few more steps directly to you, Janet, a cocky grin on his face you so wish you could slap off. One more thing. There is the matter of our beloved artifact that you stole while down in the aqueduct. Hand it over immediately. The Dwarven King is referring, of course, to the Horn of Blasting, something that does indeed belong to the dwarves. Hefralin reaches out, waiting for you to place the horn into his hand. Janet uses the Horn of Blasting and loses it from her inventory. With no other choice, you reach into your pack, retrieve the artifact and hand it to Lord Hefralin, the dwarf snatching it away as he returns to Dilt and Brother Sen. And with that, the Dwarven Guards separate and Brother Sen's paladins lead you away. The encounter with Lord Hefralin and Supreme Healer Priest Dilt concluded. The two villains have won the day, but, for some reason at least, it appears that they're allowing you to live. As you pass through the city, you take consolation in the fact that most of the Dwarven townspeople here seem to have returned to a normal way of life. The drought has ended, everyone has consumed all the water they needed, and you smile with the thought of all the lives you've saved. Hence, while you're being unceremoniously booted out of blue, you've done some substantial good here as well, and that's what's important. Let's give your party some additional bonus experience points for all that you've done. Each hero earns 571 experience points. Brother Sen and his Sislan paladins finally escort you to the main gate of blue, another dozen or so Dwarven guards watching your every move from above. As you approach, the gate leading out of the city is slowly opened and you are further escorted back out onto the road leading east, an unceremonious end to your time here within blue. Back outside the city just beyond the main gate, you spot dozens upon dozens of water skins lying on the road here, apparently yours for the taking. Indeed, Brother Sen comments a moment later, pointing to the skins. There is enough water here to last you several weeks out in the hot sands. Go back to wherever you came from and don't ever come back to blue again. The apparent gift is quite surprising, and you half wonder if the water is poisoned perhaps as you begin to stuff it into your packs. You seem rather gracious, Cartha responds, addressing an issue you've been thinking about as well. Down in the aqueduct you tried to kill us, twice. Yet now you're letting us go, even providing water for our escape. What? Now that the rebel dwarves have been captured and our water supply restored, you're no threat to us, Brother Sen replies, a wry smile on his face. Besides, the world needs to know about the paladins of Sisla. Go tell everyone that we have arrived to enforce the will of Sisla. The will of Sisla? How do you respond to that last comment? Choose an option. Diplomacy, you sure you want that? Honor, we won't help your cause. Tolerance, we will spread the word? Oh, we will spread the word all right, Senator states sarcastically, already developing a hatred for Brother Sen and his self-serving paladins. You're inviting civil war within the church, we will warn everyone about you. Brother Sen chuckles again in his zealous pride, seeing your party as a worthless collection of inept fools. As for being gracious, all of you are just a tool we're choosing to use at this moment. Once you've done our bidding, we will dispose of you like anything else that's become useless. Sen then leans over and whispers in your ear, leaving you with one final insult. And mark my words, we will dispose of all of you. The narcissistic cleric grins again, orders for the portcullis to be temporarily lifted, then escorts his paladins back into the city, leaving your party out in the desert and almost a 2 weeks march back to the bandit camp to the east. Your heroes sneer at Brother Sen as he departs, perhaps hoping that a confrontation with him again is in your party's near future. And that's a wrap for module number 5, Lost Tears for Blue. We hope you've enjoyed playing the game so far. Before you begin the next module, please consider making a small donation to the developers of BrowserQuests, the Huelsman Way LLC. Each module takes us months to develop, all the while needing to host, moderate and improve the game. Just $1 per module would be fantastic, and very much appreciated. Thank you.